It's Wednesday, June the 9th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. An official of the National Union of Public Workers has suggested that yesterday's heated emergency meeting of the Executive Council, which resulted in police being called in, was as a result of a misunderstanding about the purpose of the meeting. NUPW Deputy Acting General Secretary Richard Green explained that some members believed action was being taken at the meeting to appoint a General Secretary on the heels of a petition to have a new Secretary General post created and President Kani McDowell become the first person in that position. Green said the agenda did not include the appointment of any persons, but some union members believed otherwise.
On the agenda today was the whole matter of the post of General Secretary and Deputy General Secretary. It was not, the agenda item did not say the appointment of the General Secretary and Deputy General Secretary. It said the post of General Secretary and Deputy General Secretary. Because there is a process, and a process that was recommended in filling the post, that was not allowed to come forward. That was not allowed to happen.
So what was supposed to be discussed then? Within the course? You said
the
this
process.
Yeah.
But remember, the petition and resolution spoke to how the post of General Secretary would have been nullified, would have been ruled null and void, and the installation of a Secretary General. So in the context of looking at the way forward for the organization, the council asked how to have this matter addressed, the whole matter of filling, how we're going to go about looking at the filling of the post of General Secretary.
He said the situation also led to concerns about the direction in which the union was heading.
Persons have indicated, especially through that meeting, that they feel very strongly about the direction in which the union is going. And I can tell you that there are a lot of people who are not comfortable with the way this is going, because it speaks to the heart of the union and what the union represents. The union does not represent summary dismissal. Union represents due process. The union represents the work for a person to answer to accusations, due process, natural justice. The union is also in the business of, in the event that you want to fill a post, that all suitably qualified persons are given an opportunity to compete. And that is not a simple case of one person in Barbados being the most eligible candidate without consideration of all others. The union does not stand for that. And the membership, especially the councillors, do have a vested interest in the governance of this organization and want to ask questions about it.
Caves of Barbados Limited has paid over $3 million in benefits to former employees of Harrison Cave. The disclosure from Minister of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, Kerry Simmons, who said close to $2.5 million was severance payments. Speaking in Parliament yesterday, the minister said only 3 members of staff did not qualify for severance due to the length of their service.
The staff at Caves of Barbados, sir, were officially severed on the 31st of October 2020. They were officially severed on the 31st of October 2020. All members of staff have been paid their severance. There's one set of circumstances where there's a person who was certified to be medically unfit. I believe the date of that certification was the 30th of October in the year 2020. That person was retired under special conditions given their circumstances. There are 3 members of staff who did not qualify for severance due to the length of their service. And therefore, obviously, if you fall outside of the specific time of service required and set down by the laws of Barbados, and you do not you do not meet that length of service threshold, then you can't be severed via that process. Mr. Speaker, sir, the severance payments bill for the Caves of Barbados is $2,411,409. $2,411,409. And as I said, all those who qualify for severance have been paid. And you add in vacation pay and other considerations of that nature, the Caves have paid out $3,044,628 to its employees.
The Ministry of Transport, Works and Water Resources and road safety advocates have taken steps to further educate road users. Yesterday, officials unveiled the first of many road signs alerting motorists of their duty to maintain a distance from cyclists of at least 1.5 meters when overtaking. Transport Minister Ian Goodin-Edgill stated that cyclists are among the most vulnerable of road users, and he called on operators of larger vehicles to assist in the creation of a more equitable environment.
My responsibilities for transport and works as minister place me in the advantageous position of recognizing and appreciating the competition that takes place every day among the various users of our roadways. This competition is intensified by the limitations of physical space imposed by the relative natural smallness of our island home. So while we are forced to admit that there's nothing right now that we can do to change the physical restraints, as reasonable and responsible citizens, we are therefore required to create and exhibit the right attitudes of cooperation, tolerance, and patience towards all other road users, and on this occasion, we are focusing on bicyclists.
3 people lost their lives in March of this year in road traffic accidents while cycling, prompting calls for urgent action. President of the Barbados Cycling Union, Charles Lynch, said since the tragedies, motorists appear to be more mindful of cyclists.
What we have realized, truthfully, after the last road death, there is a marked difference in terms of respect for cyclists on the road. Some weeks ago, we placed a ghost bike in the Welches area where the young lady Melanie Best lost her life. That bike is still in position. The intention is to move that bike at some later stage and put it in the Balls area where Ezra Mosley was also one of the victims of a road accident, being a cyclist at the time. We just want to keep it in people's minds. We don't want any more fatalities in terms of cyclists. So we're just asking the public to be patient with us. When you see us on the road, respect us, and we will follow the rules of the road also.
Meanwhile, the Barbados Road Safety Association made yet another appeal to the Royal Barbados Police Force. BRSA President Shamin Roland Bowen says, despite the existence of legislation approving the use of breathalyzer testing, lawmen have been unable to implement the measure.
This COVID, and to administer the breathalyzer, you have to be a certain distance because you have to give the person the breathalyzer, and then that person have to take off the mask and blow into it. So we are not looking at making one type of people safe and endangering the lives of another type. So the police officers that would have to be administering this, we still have to look at their safety, and take it to heart. And I do believe that in the interest of safety, I do believe that it is on the cards and it will soon be here, as soon and as we see things are letting up a bit, I believe that the training should start soon. If it hasn't, I don't think it has. If not, we would have been told. But I do believe this is time now to get the officers trained towards the correct use of administering the breathalyzer test. But no, we're not giving up on that. That is a fight, and we're fighting to the end until we see it on the streets.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Regional news now. Health officials in Guyana are closely monitoring flood-affected communities for waterborne diseases. More from News Source, Guyana.
As the floods continue in several communities across the country, and some areas are seeing a worsening of the floods, the Ministry of Health is now monitoring those areas for waterborne diseases after receiving several complaints. Regional health officers and their teams have been dispatched to the regions to assess and monitor the situation. That's according to the Health Minister, Dr. Frank Anthony.
In Region 1, they have been constantly monitoring. From the reports that I've had this morning, they haven't had any outbreaks of anything. Same goes for Region 7, 8, and 9. There are a few isolated cases of skin rashes and so that people have been reporting, but those have been dealt with.
In some communities where the flood waters have not been receding satisfactorily, health teams will be dispatched to conduct a second round of evaluation of the situation.
And finally, the World Bank Group says it expects the global economy to expand by 5.6% this year, the fastest post-recession pace in 80 years. However, the World Bank's Global Economic Prospects Report stated that many emerging markets and developing economies continue to struggle with the COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath. Ahan Kos is the Prospects Group Director at the World Bank Group.
We are expecting to grow around 5.6% this year. How good this number is? When you look at all the global recessions and what happened after the global recessions, this is the best number we are seeing over 80 years. Growth is fast in advanced economies, commodity prices are at record levels, but emerging market developing economies are still struggling because they are still dealing with a health crisis on the ground.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.